Wesley, the last seasons never went below 4,000 calories.
He is the coach of such outstanding athletes as Urs Kalaczynski, William Bonac, Wesley Vissers, Nathan De Asha, Juliana Mota, Mohamed Foda, Martin Fitzwater. They call him the boss of Outlaw. Please welcome all the way from Austria, Stefan Kienzl.
Bodybuilders always tend to find or do shortcuts, but shortcuts are always The training split or the frequency is never the solution when the exercise execution is not on point. Choose your drugs wisely. There's absolutely no need in an off season. There is no need to do medication. It's just total nonsense. Up your digestion and your midsection. The very frustrating thing about bodybuilding is that a high percentage of people out there destroy not only their health, also their physiques by using too high amounts. People think about Tren and aren't able to perform one correct biceps curl. Bodybuilding is simple. If someone makes it super complicated, it's just trying to sell you something.
How does peri-workout nutrition need to be scheduled?
First thing, which is really, really important, is
Man, the mustache is really growing out nicely.
I'm not the biggest fan of it.
We're twins.
Yeah, a little bit.
How long does he is he having you grow it out for?
6 weeks, so I think it's half time.
Half time. Okay.
Yeah.
Is he allowing you to trim it a little bit? Is he allowing you to do a little trimming?
Actually, we didn't classify it that closely. I need to have it grown, but I trim it a little bit in the bottom, not to look completely retarded.
Gotcha. Same. Me too. Well, anyways, man, I just wanted to say thank you for coming on. You have
you're welcome.
You have a passion for bodybuilding that is just incredible, man.
I definitely have. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's really exciting to hear you talk about it, because even when I talk about it with my friends, I feel like we have that same energy, and it's just like when I listen to you speak about it, it's just this passion that overflows that I feel like me and many of my homies can share as well, since we've been just so obsessed with bodybuilding for longer than decades. But I really appreciate your openness, and I think this is a really big reason why many people find themselves attracted to you and your work.
I'm always quite direct in everything I do or in everything I say that might be positive, but that also could be negative, because for me that's I think it's one big part of the success. To talk about also things which are not good, because that's the only possibility to evolve as an athlete or to evolve also as a coach. And if you are not the guy who wants to be liked by everyone, that's sometimes an advantage which makes the work and even the results better.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but you were originally projected to be a doctor that caught the bodybuilding bug.
No, I didn't finish study because I had the ridiculous dumb idea to get a good bodybuilder by myself. So I quitted study quite in the end. Already working at the clinic, but it turned out that I really have not even 10% of the genetic to get to bodybuilding results I would have desired. So I got a little bit distracted from the study, because I did 2 years nothing, and in Austria in that time that changed the way the study is built up. So for me there was no possibility in that moment to jump back in the time I had already been. I would have had to start nearly from the beginning. So at that moment I switched to economics, but focused on the health perspective. And then I got I would say assistant clinical director of a hospital responsible for quality management systems. So more still in the health industry, but more in the financial and quality part of it. But then I got self-employed with a therapy institute, and actually quite at the same time with coaching in 2009. So quite long ago, 17 years,
Gotcha.
where I stopped working for someone else and I'm self-employed.
And you had some time judging too, right?
I judged actually in a lot of federations. I started judging at the IFBB Amateur from 2006 until 2009. Then for a short time I judged at the... there was the first split the IFBB Amateur had, was the split IFBB Amateur and WBPF. Then I judged small time there. And from 2010 to 2015, I judged for the NABA. Also big shows like Mr. Universe, Worlds, all that stuff. And I was responsible for the national shows, organizing it. But I stopped that in 2015 when coaching business went bigger, and bigger, because I just didn't want to do two things at once.
What did you think about the WBBF or the WBF? Was the WBFF that you said?
It was WBPF.
BPF.
It was it was an organization. Paul Chua was founded. He was before the Asian president of the IFBB, and so he did, I would say, quite a similar structure as the IFBB was. They are still existent, but very, 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 very small. And for me, the I would say the biggest luck was when the IFBB Amateur split up with the MPC and the IFBB Professional League. Because the old IFBB people in the United States never recognized that so much, but the IFBB Amateur in European countries, that everything was quite strict there. Even if you attended to a show from a different federation, you get banned, and they had doping tests and all that weird, silly stuff. So they didn't like me very much because anyway I had a lot of success, and most of my people were winning the international shows at the NABA, and in the IFBB Austria they had no competitors anymore because all went with me and did other federations. And when the IFBB Amateur split up with the MPC, my athletes immediately won pro cards and went to get pro wins within their first season. So everything went quite fast. So actually that was my turning point in my career, when I had the possibility to coach athletes at the IFBB Professional League, because before the split that wouldn't have been possible.
Okay, I see. So correct me if I'm wrong, but at the last Olympia, you had somewhere around 17 to 20 Olympians.
It's always how do you count it? You know, you have an amount of athletes who qualified in shows with you. You know, that actually had been 17. With that 17, I quitted work with some, I would say 8 months before the Olympia, with some shortly before the Olympia, because it just didn't fit anymore.
Okay.
Then on the other hand, I got athletes who qualified by themselves or with other coaches and went to me and did the Olympia with me. So, you know, it's hard to get a realistic number, but under my wing at the Olympia were 16.
Wow. That's crazy, man. That's insane.
And for me, it's more important not only the number. I really like the diversity of the sport. I like the different classes. I like how different the judges is in different classes. How different you have to work in different classes. So for me, it's always important not only to do one class. So it was really a big pleasure to have athletes in every class except wheelchair to 12. Let me think. wheelchair to 12 and man physique because I pulled out the yoga. So every other class was actually with athletes, which was quite a high workload because there was no rest. But on the other hand, it was quite interesting.
What was that like being at this Olympia this last month with like, I guess if I was a fly on the wall and I was at the Olympia this last month, what would I be seeing day to day?
For me, it's, I don't think I'm not really thinking about tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So I just try to do my work best I can in the next 10 minutes. And I go from the next 10 minutes to the next 10 minutes.
Gotcha.
In the morning, I make my schedule. When do I want to see whom and which time frame do I need? But I don't think too much in the future, because maybe then I would just go totally mad. But as I'm always very present in the things I do at the moment, actually it was quite okay, and it was not super stressful. It was more stressful because of the environment, because on show days, the hotel, the resort world with his elevator structure that you only can go into the floor, you have a card, always need to go down at the floor being picked up or picking up anyone else. So every check-in or every athlete meeting I had lasted double time because I needed to go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. That's maybe not that big problem if you have 1 or 2 athletes, but if you have 16 and you need to manage that, and sometimes they are just one floor apart from each other, but you can't go from the 26th floor to the 25th without going down and waiting for them that they pick you up. That was, I think, the biggest threat for that Olympia.
Jesus, that's annoying. This is kind of like just a curious question of mine, but do you have a lot of athletes that tend to compete with each other in the same classes, like Urs and Wesley? Do you feel like do you feel like there's a higher level of camaraderie in there, or is there a little bit of like same team competitiveness?
They are all competitors, and in the end they all compete against each other.
Yeah.
But still they know how it is important for me as a person, that they are okay against each other, that there are no bad words, no bad thoughts, that they are colleagues, that they shake their hands, that they do pictures together, all that stuff which just is necessary if you want to be professional. For me, it's very important that every athlete which works with me is very, very professional. They should be professional, not also to teammates. They should be professional against everyone. And I think I really can say that about all of my athletes, that they are very professional in the way they live the sport and how they treat other athletes. So that's just something which is very, very, very important for me.
Okay.
But not only for teammates, but in general.
Right.
So I take care about that. And if people are not behaving like that, I might probably not work with them. Gotcha.
I see. I think that's something I really like about your coaching as well, is I think that passion seems to leak out to, I guess, a lot of your athletes. A few of them, like Martin and I, follow each other, and he just seems to love working with you. And it seems like the passion just kind of flows and allows the athletes to feel even more motivated and more driven, which I think is extremely important when you're finding a coach. Like obviously you need another pair of eyes, but
definitely you have the same flame burning in you, because when you want to be good in something, you need to be a big fan of something, and I'm definitely just a big bodybuilding fan, and actually also the rivalries in when people compete at the same. It was the same with open bodybuilding. I had Martin, I had William, I had Mo, I would have had Nathan, but he wasn't allowed to travel. They all have top 10 potential to be at the Olympia. William and Martin were that very clear, but I want that everybody feels that passion for bodybuilding in my heart, but they also need to have that they can accept if someone is placed better as they are from the team, because in the end, every one of them will get the best possible package, and everyone who knows bodybuilding knows that decisions are made by human beings which are judging, and they have favors and they have likes and they have dislikes, and in the end they choose what they like more, not always what is actually better, because what is better, there are so many different criteria, and everyone has different strengths and different weaknesses. And when is a strength more important than another weakness? So that's just not objectively to call. So everybody must come in their best, and then someone else decides. I'm not deciding who is the better one. So a judge will decide. So it's easy for me to have the motivation to bring everyone to their personal bests, and also for the athletes to bring their personal bests, and accept if a placing goes either one way or another way. The story of Urs and Wesley is a good example for that, when you take a look at the Arnolds and when you take a look at the Olympia. Both looked incredible at both shows, nearly the same. Urs made a bigger step from the Arnolds to the Olympia, but in the end, judges just decided different, because the competitive field was different and individual weaknesses were judged differently. So that's how bodybuilding goes.
So that leads me to want to ask, this is strictly hypothetical, and obviously we're just making predictions, right? Because that's what makes things fun. But I have to bring this up because we know that this is kind of hyped right now. And while you and I believe, understand the importance of size in judging the open class, what do you think about the Prague Pro? With CBUM coming, and now that you have Martin and also Shaun
Clarida?
Yeah.
I think, said before, I think everybody on this planet is a Chris Bumstead fan. And what Chris did for the sport is just magic. I think the whole industry got so much bigger because of the passion, the drive, and everything Chris does. But still, I think Martin is the better bodybuilder. In my eyes, that's how I would judge it. The combination of incredible bone structure which Martin brings, because he has the bone structure, he could easily do classic, because his waist to shoulder ratio is just insane. It's actually like a classic bodybuilder, but he has just so much more thickness in every part of his body, and in the end it's still called bodybuilding, and that thickness, I would reward it. We will see what Steve Weinberger will judge. But in my opinion, if everybody comes at his personal best, like at the Olympia, let's say that's how they should come. For me, it's Martin all the way.
Okay.
And even I think that Shaun might beat Chris, even if he's double the height than Shaun.
Yeah.
But the thickness Shaun has on his body, and even also the balance, is just incredible.
Okay. Where do you think CBUM might land then with Shaun and Horst and who else? I'm trying to think of the other person.
Rafael Brandao.
Yeah, Rafael. Yeah.
I think Chris seriously can get that 3 or 4 spot. Even he might surprise if you bring something totally new. And as I said before, it totally lays down in how do the judges see it at that day. He is for sure impressive. He will maybe have the more grainy muscle, the more, I would say, deeper separations and grainier muscle than, for example, Martin has. But Martin is much more 3D and has much more thickness. If they go for the look of Chris, everything could be possible. It wouldn't be my judging. When it gets, I think, really interesting is Chris against Rafael. If Rafael nails the condition, which he most of the time doesn't do, but if he would nail it also from the back, in my opinion, he would beat Chris. But if Rafael comes at the same way he did at the Olympia, with I would say, slightly too soft back, not that good back development, very strong from the front, but not from the back, Chris might have an advantage over him. And Marcello is very hard to judge because, you know, he really needs to bring condition, which actually he never did until that point. So I see from what I've seen in the past, but his last competition was, I think, Romania last year. And I have not seen anything else. And in a year, a lot of things can happen. But if I would take Chris Olympia shape and structure against Marcello last year, third at Prague, I would see advantage in Chris.
I'd be really intrigued to see what improvements Chris can make now without the weight cap, for sure, though. I am very curious just how much he's been suppressing whenever he jumps on classic.
No, it's really so incredible special for every bodybuilding fan, because, you know, there are always those discussions. There are different classes. What would happen if they compete together? Is it necessary to have a 212 class? Couldn't they compete in the open? How much less muscles do classic bodybuilder have, for example? That's Saturday and Sunday will bring us an answer for that question. And everybody can have a look. 4,000 people who had the luck to get a ticket will see it live. And every other out there who is a bodybuilding fan should go and buy that live stream and open it at that time, because bodybuilding history will be made no matter what the result will be. But to see 3 of the top guys in each class compete with each other is just magic.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy. I'll be getting that for sure. So one thing that I was thinking, I feel like you get your athletes in a very, very defined and detailed condition more often than not.
Most of the times, yeah.
I feel like it stands out. So I'm wondering, what do you think that is?
Keep it simple. You know, everybody tends to overcomplicate bodybuilding. Mm-hmm. Everybody tends to make things complicated. You are not allowed to take antioxidants in a time frame before and after training, and you need to breathe 7 times before you do a set, and then do it 2 seconds slow and 1 second explosive, and blah 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 blah, and all that stuff. For me, bodybuilding is very, very simple. When it comes to bodybuilding, it's perfect exercise execution and get better in it. So that's the base of building muscle. Mm-hmm. And eat enough is the base of building muscle. When it comes to a competition prep, it's just getting into a caloric deficit and bring the body to a body fat level, which is the needed body fat level for that specific body to shine on stage. That can totally differ from person to person.
Yep.
Because muscles can disappear at one person when you go too low, which don't disappear on the other. So I think I have a quite good optic judgment to find a good spot for every person. I think that's one of the things. The second thing is I give much more attention to recovery, psychological, being stable, stress reduction than most of the other coaches, because sometimes all that fancy shit and that drug then and that drug there and we increase that there and we do that there is just more stress to the body, which doesn't lead to a better result. Maybe hypothetically and in some scientific exams, but in reality it's just different. Mm-hmm. And I try to be objective, analyze easy tasks and easy simple strategies, and in the end that very often leads to a good result.
Cool. So I've never actually ever heard you talk about this or discuss this on any podcasts, but this is something that I was thinking myself, and I'm really glad you said that, because while obviously the most important part is getting the athlete lean enough, right? I had the suspicion that one of the reasons why I feel like you get your athletes in this very clean, detailed condition is because there are some coaches out there and athletes that seem to overcomplicate the peak week or the last few weeks of prep, especially
or
including the drug protocol as well, Right.
Or everything. You know, when I take a look at and open Instagram, sometimes I just think people do bodybuilding for Instagram, and even coaches do bodybuilding for Instagram. They want that cool training shots to present it to the public. They want that shot, that shot, that shot. For me, there's just one shot, which is a shot I post on Instagram. The shot with a trophy.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care about 1 week out, 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out.
Right.
I don't want to show the people a change. Don't want to show the people a transformation. I want to show the people results, because that's what I live for. Mm-hmm. And I think that very, very stubborn way of focusing all on the moment on the stage makes sometimes quite good results.
I like that a lot. I have seen some coaches and athletes will have protocols, like even drug protocols, close to their stage, where, like, obviously I would say it's pretty standard that people will say, you know, come off of certain testosterone esters or things that they feel like might hold some water, and then they might increase slightly, maybe some orals. But I've seen maybe coaches that will like double like the doses of orals that someone is taking and add extra on top. And I feel like sometimes the amount of just extra androgens that someone is taking the week before the show just kind of inflates them to this point where like you start losing detail.
Yeah, for me, when I structure a peak week or when I structure the stage presence, for me it's important that an athlete looks good in bad light when he gets up Sunday 1 week out in the morning fasted. Then I need to be happy with the shape. I don't need to be happy with fullness or everything, but I need to be happy with the skin texture. And when I'm happy with the skin texture 1 week out, the rest will fall in pace, because then I lower the stress, I lower training intensity, I skip cardio, and then I start, depends on the athlete, a few days out, upping the carbohydrates, and that's it. You know, the peak protocol has nothing to do with drugs or anything else. The peak protocol, or the quintessence of a peak protocol in my eyes, which works, is lowering stress, lowering the exhaustion of the body, and refill the body that he is healthy, feels well, is good hydrated, and can show his presence and his details on stage. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, you know, just people, for example, also look too beaten up on stage, even if you are crazy conditioned. But if you look too, I would say, too tired, too beaten up, that won't be a winning look. Especially when it comes to the divisions, which are very, very aesthetically driven, like man physique, bikini, wellness. There, that plays, for example, a big role to be shredded and conditioned, but also look very, very fresh and healthy and not beaten up.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with that as well. I don't like to ask too much about compounds, but I am curious about this because I know that there has been some discussion in like my comment section regarding just how important this compound is. And me personally, I like to err on the side of like, this compound is just not needed if you don't need it. But what are your thoughts on Tren and how necessary it is during prep?
Nothing is necessary. I had people winning pro shows natural, so... You know, you can't buy genetics with drugs. That's just the point. Mm-hmm. You know, Tren has nice effects when it comes to really save your muscles in a caloric deficit. But there is then the question: do you need that if everything is structured really well? I've really seen the most shredded guys out there, natural, in incredible manner. Mm-hmm. I have seen guys winning Arnolds without ever touching a Tren. I have seen people out there winning pro shows without ever touching a GH or something like that, you know. I think the biggest problem these days is that people are disillusional by, I would say, their own genetical potential, and they try or they believe they can change that with a no matter what, I go all in mentality. They will just end up being destroyed physiques, but they will not end up winning shows, at least not on a high level.
Real quick, guys. So while I was looking at the YouTube analytics, I actually saw that 85% of you guys that watch this channel are not subscribed. And I want to ask very little of you guys, but if you enjoy this podcast, if you find value in it, then please do me this one favor and subscribe to the channel, because doing so helps me get bigger and greater guests like the guests you are listening to today. Also, this channel is not sponsored, which means only the companies that I work with, which are Young LA and Huge Supplements, are the companies that can help fund this channel by you guys using the code NILE. So code NILE gives you a discount of 15% off of Young LA, and code NILE also gives you a discount of 10% off of Huge Supplements. And if you decide to purchase anything from any of these companies, it will help immensely for me by using my code. And this way, I can travel to other guests and also upgrade in equipment to make this podcast bigger and better for you guys. Right. Would you agree that the healthier an athlete tends to be, normally the better they perform?
Yeah, 100%. And the very frustrating thing about bodybuilding is that a high percentage of people out there destroy their health, or destroy even in not only their health, also their physiques by using too high amounts of drugs without ever getting a benefit of it, just because they believe, you know, it's if I'm a motorsport enthusiast, if you would give me a Formula 1 car, I would drive into a tree within 2 seconds, because I don't have the possibility ever to get to that limit to drive such a car. And actually that's the same in every sport. I know it's very romantic to think that everybody can achieve everything, but it's just not like that.
I agree. It's unfortunate that there's like this...
You need to be realistic where your place is. And that's something which is sadly, and that's so different between these days or 20 years back. 20 years back, we just loved so much to go to the gym and train. We just loved so much to evolve and see what comes out. And after years of training, we went on stage, and then one step after another, and we did more. Most of the time back then, the guys trained 10 years before they even thought on stepping a stage. There was so much more bodybuilding base in their bodies than these days, where young kids come, train for half a year and are full of drugs without having any base, have done any diet, have no idea about competing. And all that stories end quite bad, and that's just sad for, I would say, that wonderful sport of bodybuilding, which actually everybody could benefit from if the people would think realistically.
I think that's one of the purposes that I have for this podcast, that I might have discussed quite a few times already to my audience, but I just feel like, especially in this space that I'm working in social media with all these younger creators these days, especially here in LA and in America, there is this, I feel like, a new sensation over the word trend and over using drugs at a young age. And there's this belief that like all these people just look great because of the PEDs they take.
The point is it's so ridiculous, you know. The people think about trend and aren't able to perform one correct biceps curl which the biceps curl will actually make your biceps grow if the stimulus is right. The Tren not.
Right.
You know, they think about the false things, and they think about buying a Ferrari without having a driving license. That's just not how it works, you know.
Right.
Muscles don't grow by itself, and muscle don't grow by itself when you use drugs. Muscle grow because you have the right stimulus and the calorie surplus, and then you can shift the nitrogen balance with specific drugs. But that's always something which comes somewhere, and it's one of the most unimportant things. And even then, if it goes more far than you say, they are talking about specific drugs, or that's important or that's important. No, it's not, because the base is a total different.
Yeah, agreed. And I see these as like short-term thoughts, short-term ideas, because you know, you can jump on maybe something like Tren or Winstrol and you can look good in 8 weeks, but once you jump off of it, that look is gone, right? But now you have the side effects.
You can look good for a specific time also without Tren if you just fill up your muscles and go for a pump. You know, the difference is just the pressure in the muscle stays better and you have more volume because the nutritional uptake is better even in that short period of time. But in 8 weeks, you will never build a huge amount of solid muscle mass. You know, it's nutritional uptake and it's glycogen storage and it's water storage, which keeps more into the muscle, but nothing seriously happens. And as for me, as a guy who is just interested in competitive results, you know, if someone looks good in a tank top, or if someone looks good in the gym pumping up, that's just a thing which is not important for me. It's when I do a comparison with racing cars, it's the same. I don't care if the racing car looks good, it has to drive fast. And in bodybuilding, it's the same for me. An athlete doesn't have to look good on the street or in the gym or whatever else. He needs to look good on the stage. And athletes look good on the stage if they have done long-term the right decisions.
I'm just really glad that you said earlier too, because it's something that resonated with me, that like some athletes that just take too much might actually destroy the look of their physiques as well. Not just their health, but like the look of their physique.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's just like so important, because I think there is this idea these days that like, if you want to become a top Olympian pro bodybuilder, you just got to take more, which is not the case, you know, because just we all have a maintenance calorie.
If people, you know, those urban legends, you've got to take more. They all come from people who even don't know anybody who is successful. They just think it is like that. I'm sure I'm not sure I know it that some of the top open bodybuilders take less gear as 200-pound athletes with 20% of body fat training since 1 year. It's just, you know, fucking nonsense. And also something which sometimes the coaching industry develops, that you need that. And you know, some coaches online, they just want to sound clever. They want to give something special. They want to point up how complicated and that. Bodybuilding is simple. If someone makes it super complicated, he's just trying to sell you something.
Awesome. Well, let's complicate it a little bit more. For post-show, what are your thoughts about reverse dieting versus rebounding?
You know, post-show, it's the most important thing is to get the body rid of all that stress which he had in the competition prep, because that's even if it sometimes people are in prep for nearly half of the year because they do multiple shows. So then it's time to relax, because those blown up rebound urban legends, you know, they are not solid muscle. That's just nutritional uptake, that's just water. And you can easily fuck up your insulin sensitivity, everything within a short time, you know. Then you think you've grown for, let's say, 1 or 2 months, but actually you didn't. It's no solid tissue. It's just water, glycogen storage, a little bit solid tissue, and then everything stops because you fucked up your insulin sensitivity. If you do it clever, relax after the show, going slowly up with the calorie, you have the possibility to grow for a year without having any health issues and wasting your time because you just think the most beneficial time is after a show.
Gotcha. I see. So when a bodybuilder goes into their off season, what should a bodybuilder do to keep their waist from growing?
The waist, you mean the midsection?
Yeah.
It's a combination of two things. The first is a perfect exercise execution, you know. Let's take an example. If we go dumbbell rowing, you know, if in dumbbell rowing you not row with your latissimus or with your upper back, whatever you want to target, if you row with your obliques because you're always making a twist, your midsection will grow and you will go wider because you just didn't understand how you need to target your muscle. The same when you do squats and your squat is more a good morning than a squat, you will probably get a wider midsection because you involved much more core muscles to get the weight up. So the first thing, which is really, really important, is targeted exercising. That's one thing which is very, very important. The second thing is you must learn to understand your digestion. You need to know what you digest well and what you digest good. The third thing is eat as much as needed, but as least as possible. So don't overeat, because that will give extra stress to your digestive system. And the last thing is choose your drugs wisely. You know, there's absolutely no need in, I would say, orals in an off season. There is no need, if you are not diabetic, to do anti-diabetic medication. It's just total bullshit and nonsense, and fucks just up your digestion and your midsection. So that's something you should take care of.
What are these anti-diabetic medications you're thinking of? Are you talking about things like metformin?
I'm just not a big fan. You know,
like
bodybuilders always tend to find or do shortcuts, but shortcuts are always shit. You know, you need to take care about your digestion in the way what you eat, how the quality is, what you eat. You need to take care about your insulin sensitivity with the amount of food you eat, for the time periods you eat. In the end, that will always be the best choice. Because a lot of or even the most anti-diabetics make, not in every person, but in a lot of persons, digestive issues. They slower digestion, they make nutritional uptake a little bit worse. It depends a little bit on the type of it. So actually you're making one of the most important factors in your success, the nutritional uptake, worse than it could be if you would take care of it without the medication.
Okay, I see. Gotcha. So in regards to maintaining good insulin sensitivity in the off season, you would say primarily diet choices.
Don't overfeed, diet choices, doing some cardio, being on a good fat percentage. That's what long-term brings the success. You know, short-time success can come with some tricks, but in the end, long-term success, and that's actually what needed to create Olympian champions, to create Olympian top 10 champions. That's always the long track, which is important. You need to do it clever.
What's a good fat percentage?
That can be different from person to person. Some tolerate fat percentage nearly to 15%, really, really good, and get easy in shape and everything works well, they grow well. Some will go better with staying in the 10% or a little bit more. But in the least cases, I would go over 15%.
Okay. And this is for like an off season, right? We're referring to. So obviously, yeah. I'm assuming this is a lot different for prep. Like for prep, what would be the lowest and the highest calories out of all your clients that you've ever had to work with, if you remember?
In off season or at the competition prep?
Competition prep.
Competition prep, for example, Wesley, the last seasons never went below 4,000 calories.
Wow, that's crazy.
Also Wesley, as an example, the first season we did together, he was 1,800.
He was on 1,800?
As lowest, but the last 2 seasons, Arnold and Olympia were 4.
Whoa, that's crazy. How did you guys do that?
Just consistency all over a year. Building the metabolism up, having a good structure, understanding what the body needs, how much rest the body needs, how much fatigue a body has. We worked that out quite well. It took us 4 or 5 seasons, but now we really grooved in.
Okay. Would you say the smart reverse diet during like that health phase is a big contributor?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Also the understanding of the people that maybe hunger isn't a good judge if you eat enough post-show. To learn to deal with that is an important fact.
Okay, cool, interesting. Yeah, I do think that is probably one drawback to the argument of doing a rebound is I do feel like it'll still do some things to your metabolism that you wouldn't want it to. So I wanted to ask you about training. What do you think about including sarcoplasmic focused training techniques, such as like Patrick Tuor's SST training style or Hanny Rambod's FST 7 sets?
That all comes way, way after what is really necessary. Really necessary is target a muscle from his origin to the full contraction and have full control over the movement. If you are able to ensure that, nothing more is needed. As easy as it is. And then progressive overload the system. Just get better in what you do. And you can get better with intensity techniques. You can get better with FST 7 techniques. You can get better with Patrick's techniques. But that's not the base which is necessary.
Yeah.
Necessary is the full control over the movement, especially on weak areas. When you are genetically gifted and have the full control over the muscle, even when you swing the weight or having a bad form, that's totally fine and congratulations to you. But most people out there don't have that, so they need to take care to find a way to learn the movement, to stimulate the muscle, and then it will grow.
Okay.
So you need to invest time in the quality of the movement. But most people out there are lazy. They want a special technique. They want a special training split, and they hope with the special training split they get to the result. But in the end, they just need to invest time into the movement.
Right.
Like in every other sport, if you want to get better in tennis, you need to play that forehand 700 million times to learn it. And it's actually the same in weightlifting. You need to perfect the way of your movement.
I think the only caveat that I feel like I see a benefit to these training styles is, for example, when you're having a very, very, very advanced bodybuilder who is kind of reaching the end of their progressive overload, is getting harder and harder and harder for them to go heavier in weight. And
that's what I said before. Overload is not, for me, always more weight. Overload can be more repetitions. Overload can be less rest. Overload can be more sets. Whatever. It needs to be a bigger stimulus.
Yes. Okay, cool. I think we do agree there. All right. So about health, have you ever determined from a client's blood work that they are not fit to do bodybuilding?
Yes, sure.
What do you look for, or what have you looked for in a client's blood work?
So one of the most there are two things which are very dangerous and which are responsible for a lot of problems. The first one is high blood pressure, and the second one is bad lipids. And both are not really getting better with the sport of bodybuilding. High blood pressure, both are genetically more or less predetermined. So lipid problems or even blood pressure for sure. With our lifestyle, we have the chance to get it a little bit better or a little bit worse. But in the end, bodybuilding isn't good for both of them. So if there are genetically problems, you really need to take care that doesn't get too worse, because otherwise it's not clever to do it any longer. Because that's not the tricky thing with it is it won't let you die immediately, but in 10-15 years most probably.
Being the silent killer.
Yes. Like not only for bodybuilders, like for, I would say, I worked at the pathology in the end of my study doing, how is it called in English? When you cut off people and see why they died. How is the word for that? In German, it's Obduktion, it's abduction. Is it the same in English?
I know what you're talking about. I'm brain farting right now.
And 3/4 of all the people I had to see why they died because of a stroke or a heart attack. So actually that's why people die, you know. But that shouldn't be happen within your 40s or 50s. And that's something everybody is able to take care of. And bodybuilding is definitely a sport, or competitive bodybuilding is a sport which doesn't make that things better. So you need to focus that.
Right. I think you mentioned in Fao's podcast that you really advise people to look into LP(a), especially.
Yeah, that's one of the newest scientific research says that is even a more important factor who shows how high the risk is for getting a cardiovascular problem. And actually that's something you can't change within nutrition or anything else. It's genetically predetermined. And when you know your LPA is high, you do a very, very good job if you take a look at your LDL, which you can control a little bit with medication, or not so much with nutrition, but with medication, that goes as low as possible.
Would you say you with things like statins, for example, right?
Yeah, but on the other hand, statins, you know, have especially on the muscle metabolism big sides, you know.
Right.
Creatine kinase levels get elevated, muscle issues, muscle pain, muscle degradation. Nearly 30% of all people who use statins will get into that problems. There are more modern treatments, but they are quite expensive. But for me, it's always, you know, that's what I talked before. Is it worth the risks? Where is your genetical potential? You know, you just need to be clever. What you do, even if it's today easier to get a pro card. Most people out there, 90%, will be never able to reach that. And then there's the question, destroy everything you have, your health, your body, everything else, just to follow a dream which might not be realistic. So you need to do the right decisions. And really, I can just advise everybody out there to really evaluate your health issues, and then do the right decisions where you go from that point.
Do you happen to have any ancillaries or supplements that you have clients take for their blood work? Or any that you recommend?
Yeah, there are brilliant things out there, like, for example, citrus bergamot for your lipids, or garlic for your lipids, or omega for sure, arginine for blood pressure, or whatever. There are a lot of good things, but they just shift it in a very, very small range within your genetical range, you know, and they won't make it so much better than the drugs you take make it worse. So
yeah, right.
As I said before, you really need to do the right decisions.
I think that's another big difference between content creator steroid use versus like actual pro bodybuilders. Like the content creators will just take as much as possible because there's no actual inherence or consciousness over what the blood work's going to look like 2-3 years from now, versus like in a bodybuilder's career, like that's one of the most important things that we have to look at consistently multiple times a year, right? Is like, where is the blood work going? Is it going in a bad direction, or can I keep doing this the way that I'm doing it right now? That's one of the most important parts.
Sometimes it starts to get an addiction. You can relate it to cocaine or heroin addiction. They also won't take. That your blood pressure goes up with coke, or your heart rate goes up. I think most people who take that won't take care about that, because they are just not that clever that they do it. But for someone which really loves bodybuilding, at least it is my. I need to tell that to the people that they should take care. In the end, everybody then is responsible for his own body, but it need to be told.
I really like this thing that you mentioned on, I think it was also Fowd's podcast, but you were discussing avoiding on the off season, either using Primo, EQ, or Nandrolone, or avoiding either of those based off of the client's experiencing lipid problems or hematocrit problems for EQ or libido and mental problems
or mental problems, whatever you know. That's also something when people come with studies, but that's 78% more anabolic than that and will bring you better results. That's just nothing which I have in focus, because they all work at the quite, I would say, same positive effect, but the negative sides are very individual and different. And for me, that's always something I have an eye on it, because I just want that the people have the least possible problems, because that's the only thing which works long term.
Right. Yeah. I think that's what makes bodybuilding so exciting, is that there's just so much variance per individual. And so it's like you have to, piece together this puzzle that's different for every single athlete. It's not just all cookie cutter, right?
Even if, but on the other hand, sometimes people say, but that guy eats the same than I do. Yeah, because you're both human beings and the base structure is quite the same. It's more, when do things change than how is it at the moment.
So just for the audience, to give them maybe a general idea, because I'm sure a lot of these people are also trying to figure out their own bodies and how they react to certain things, and whether or not they're feeling side effects or symptoms because of a certain compound, or because of a certain supplement, or because of how they are recovering or doing their daily activities. But would you happen to remember like a percentage of maybe how many times you've seen with your athletes the HDL problem versus the mental or libido problems or hematocrit problems? Like, which one happens more often or anything?
No, not really. I just can give the advice: be sensitive, take at least as possible, as least as needed, evaluate your health regularly, and do the right decisions.
Yeah. I think taking notes is always a good idea. You do something, you feel something, take some notes on it.
Yeah, exactly. Don't get blind.
Mm-hmm. Do you happen to still happen to recommend betaine, by the way? Betaine HCl with peptin for
like because protein? if you have a problem with protein digestion and acid reflux, which quite sounds like weird. You are talking about acid reflux and taking betaine HCl.
Because it increases acid.
Yeah, but if you have that protein digestion problem, your body compensates it with the production of more acid in your body, because it can't digest the protein, especially meat, that well. And if you ate betaine before the meals, that compensation won't happen, and you won't have an acid reflux.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That works out very, very well in a lot of cases, because I would say 50% of those acid reflux problems which occur in the off season are because of more or less protein and meat digestion.
I'm really glad you said this, because that was literally the one problem that I've been experiencing right now. Is an excess acid reflux since I've been in my off season. So
yeah, try it. You know, acid reflux always comes when it's an overload for digestion.
Ah, okay, yeah.
So
That's
you
what
need
it
to
felt like.
find out what's the overload. Is it too much fat? Is it too much carbs? Is it too much sugar? Is it too bad quality of the nutrition? Can also be. And all those things can be changed. If it's the protein digestion, it also can be changed if you reduce meat, or if you go more into the shake direction, or if you add betaine, that sometimes works out quite well.
Nice. Awesome. If you feel like any of the medications that we spoke about today may benefit you, such as BPC 157, GH secretagogues such as Tesamorelin, IGF-1, oxandrolone troche, Semaglutide, then you can obtain these from Trensparent HRT, and the link for that will be in the bio. If you feel like you're experiencing symptoms of low testosterone, such as depression, anxiety, lack of motivation, as well as lack of sex drive, then you can get this checked out as well by getting your blood work done at Transcend, and they will provide you expert medical analysis. Transcend HRT has worked with many professional bodybuilders and pro athletes, such as Thor Bjornsson, Phil Heath, and Jeremy Buendia. And if you feel like this podcast has any relevancy to you, I do believe that this clinic will provide of great benefit to you as well. Would you be up to doing the Q&A real quick? Going through the Q&A questions from the audience?
Yeah.
Yeah? Cool. Nice. Okay. Jonathan asks, do you plan to do anything different with Shaun Clarida now that he's competing in Open?
No, because the best look a person has is the best look, and as Shaun isn't even touching the 212 limit and doesn't need to be pressed down, that's no different approach.
Kyle Kaz asks, where did your knowledge as a bodybuilding coach come from?
Medicine studies and 20 years experience.
Timothy Weaver asks, what's the biggest factor that leads to the largest muscle gains in the growth phase?
Genetic. There are people out there you wouldn't imagine. They look at the dumbbell and grow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember who said that about Paul Dillette.
It's just crazy. But most of the time it's connected to the ability of doing high quality movement. They don't have to learn it. It's naturally. They do the right movement. It's for me, it's always very interesting to see, even if there are disbalance in the body. You know, if they have one super strong muscle part and a lacking muscle part, you see immediately the high quality movement in the good muscle part and the not efficient movement in the weak body part. It's crazy. You immediately see that.
I know what you're talking about. Like, I have a lot of friends that just can't engage your lats, and you can just see them engage their rear delt and bicep more.
So that might be genetics and the ability to target the muscles the right way are, for me, the biggest factors.
That's something I actually like. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. You know, I don't know everything in the world, but that's something that I've noticed as being a bodybuilder. Like when I first started, and also when I was natural, I remember I felt like I was very science-based. I would just listen to all these like scientists talk about the exact ways you should do things and 3-4 second eccentrics. And now I feel like bodybuilding is a little bit more artistic and a little bit more feel than I ever really thought it would be. Because like, even though there's a lot of science out there that's true, like a scientist can't tell me what is the right way for me to contract.
You know, the truth lays always a little bit between, you know?
Yeah.
For example, when it comes to speed and cadence, how you do it, for me, the most important way is to do it controlled, you know? Let's go to the tennis example back. If you begin tennis, you need to do your forehand slow, because you won't be able to have control over your tennis rack when you do it fast. If you are advanced, you will have the same control or even a better control when you do it faster, because you are advanced. So how fast you can do exercise or how fast the movement can be is a little bit based on the level you are able to control your muscle and have full control over the whole range of motion. And that can just be different, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But in the beginning, for sure, slower is a little bit more effective because you need to learn something, and we learn things slow and not fast.
I see. I like that. That's very well said. Manu Kumar asks, influencer or pro with the most aura?
Yeah, Chris Bumstead, he is both.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm assuming he's probably talking about
Chris is just magic for me.
Yeah, I have a feeling he might be like asking about your athletes in particular.
Yeah, Urs is very fascinating as influencer and even as an athlete. You know, you see it in his numbers on Instagram, and you also see it in his success as a bodybuilder, that he is something special. It's
a smile, man. He's got that aura, dude. He definitely, I think he has out of all the classic performances I've seen, I think he has my favorite by far.
Yeah, his performances are just insane, but also the effort he puts in is just really not only genetics in his case, it's really a lot of work also.
Anabolic Poppy asks, how do you maintain quality coaching with so many athletes requiring attention?
Know what's necessary and what's not, and keep you away from distractions, and focus on the important things.
I think you kind of
live your life with coaching and not with social media.
Yeah. I think you kind of already answered this before, but Maddie Gillis asks, what's your favorite off-season compounds?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Exactly. Most of the top pros will tell you that they made the biggest steps in the health phase.
Oh, the biggest steps in the health phase. Would you how would you explain that? Do you think maybe it's just like
because it's less stress for the body?
Gotcha.
You know, people need to understand that those substances they admit to the body hardly told it's poison. Mm-hmm. And the body needs to get rid of it. It needs to go through the liver metabolism. It's stress to the body, and the stress can be too high. And sometimes you will have, even if you are especially if you are genetically gifted, you will have the biggest success if you get the stress at least as possible to progress.
Yeah, I agree with this. Do you think things such as like glutathione, like IV or injection to like reduce free radicals are helpful in this case?
That's again, you know, they make a little bit better, but not that much as the drugs make it worse.
Yeah, right. I'm really glad you're mentioning this too. I think this is really under talked about in bodybuilding, just stress levels, just how much this really affects an athlete's performance. Because I was talking about this with Sadiq Hadzovic about how he, the worst times he ever stepped on stage are the times he was the most stressed, or the times he had the most going on, or the times that he felt like he wouldn't perform well, versus the times that he was just out there to enjoy it and also made sure that he let his body rest, always had the best physique.
Yeah.
I think other people are also fans of your metal taste, by the way. I was taking a look at your metal playlist and I got some good tracks from there. It's pretty fire.
Yeah, that music was absolutely, next to motorsports, music was my first and longest lasting passion. I'm listening to metal since I would say 6 or 7 years old. I played in a black metal band for about 10 years. I'm still listening to mostly black and death metal. So quite extreme when it comes to that.
Yeah. I wanted to be a musician when I was a kid too. My parents had me playing like seven instruments. And then when I decided that I wanted to go do music, my mom was like, no, you're not even close to good enough to be in Juilliard. You might as well just try to be an engineer.
Yeah, it's for me. I come out of a music family, so I needed to start with something classical. So I played clarinet.
Yeah.
Two of my cousins are Vienna Philharmonics. And they always thought I will also go that direction. But then with 17, when I won a few contests, then I said, I don't want to play clarinet anymore. I rather play bass guitar and join the black metal band. So they weren't that happy.
That's awesome, bro. I started with piano and clarinet too. Yeah. And I also ended with guitar. Kaya M Fit asks, do none of your clients really use insulin?
No, as I said before, even if they are not diabetic, I don't see any sense in it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I feel like I haven't seen very much sense in using insulin as well. I feel like it just kind of overcomplicates things.
It just overcomplicates it, right?
Cosmin Fit asks, when choosing a favorite classic pose for your athletes, what are you looking for? What do judges look for?
Show the strength and hide your weaknesses. And don't imitate other people.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to find a balanced pose which shows all your strength and hides the weaknesses. So for example, if you have a weak back and the guy next to you is doing the twisted Arnold pose from the back, and you are hitting that also, you are an idiot.
I agree. This is why it's always a good idea for us to get a posing coach.
Yeah, posing coach, posing coach have a good and a bad side. Posing coach are very, very often they show the people the things which work at other persons, but posing is very, very individual, and you have to feel it and you have to learn it. And because a leg stance is good for another one, it doesn't mean that leg stance is good for you.
For you, true.
So I still don't know exactly what I think about posing coaches. At least they can give you good ideas.
Noah Bulch asks, what's a good first cycle?
Natural build as much as you can. People need to learn that. That are the wrong questions. That are really the wrong. That are really the wrong question. The right question was, Stefan, do you have any advice how I can hit my lats because I can't feel it? That would be the right question in the most cases. For example, or how can I get my hamstrings up, or my glutes up, or my recovery is shit. Do you know anything which I can do to boost my recovery? Or how should my meal timing be? Or how does peri-training workout nutrition needs to be scheduled? That are the important questions, the base, and then comes all the rest.
How does peri-workout nutrition need to be scheduled?
For me, it's important to have a pre, intra, and a post. All of them need to have protein and carbs, in my idea, because you always
intra as
need
well?
to. Yeah, I'm a big fan of intra-workout carbs.
But not protein,
for people
though.
Protein, I'm really still a fan of Pepto Pro, which is hydrolyzed casein. I still think that it is more beneficial than just EAA, but in the end, EAA is also quite nice. And intra-workout carbs is an important thing for people who train longer than 1 hour and train on high intensity. Yep. Because then you will just see that the quality of the training just drops.
Yes.
And when you start with the intra-workout 20 or 30 minutes before you started the workout, you will keep that level, and that's something which is very important. When it comes to pre and post workout nutrition, actually they could be quite the same. You need it fast, digestible, and the pre-workout nutrition in your individual time frame before the training. That can be between 1 or 2 or 2.5 hours. And the post-workout meal should be immediately after. And I'm actually a fan in general of 1.5 to 2 grams of carbs and 1 gram or a half gram of protein per kg of body weight before and after training.
Gotcha.
Something about that.
Who's Wasim asks, what are your thoughts on water and sodium manipulation for peak week?
I don't manipulate a lot because, as I said before, you should look quite well Sunday 1 week out. And then it's maybe a little bit more controlled, the water, and a little bit more controlled, the sodium, because you can change fullness with it quite fast, much more than you can do it with nutrition. GTOA23 asks, are there any athletes you dream to work with that you know you could improve? I really have a very, very interesting roster. Most of the guys you know, some of them you don't know. Actually, I have nearly every one of my dream athletes.
That's awesome. That's cool. I'm brain farting right now. I believe I follow quite a bunch of your athletes. Andrea's physique is freaking phenomenal, man. He looked amazing at the show he won.
Yeah, he has such a really special look. It's crazy.
Yeah, and he still looks super young as well.
He is super young, and he has so much room. Even if it's really funny. He must have air bones. Really, I'm also okay. That muscle mass with that weight is just insane because he can have 4 or 5 kg more. Hit the weight limit, yes.
Oh, wow. Still 4 or 5 kg under. Wow, that's awesome.
But the most crazy thing is Momo switched from man physique to classic.
Yeah.
And he has 7 kg in the weight limit.
Oh,
he is allowed, I think, to have 82, and he had 75 or 74 kilogram. And at his first show, he got third. Beat some Olympians, which really was crazy cool. So here you see that weight is just a number, and it's about balance and structure, which shows.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Wow, that's super cool. Nice. I'm excited to see how he keeps progressing. He looks like a machine.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And he's really progressing him in a fast pace.
Man, it gets me stoked. Got to catch up to him. I think I still have maybe 9 kgs, 9 to 10 kgs before I meet my weight cap. So that's a lot of work to do. Okay. Last question. Oh, Mike also says, you're badass, man. You've been killing it.
Thank you.
Mo Gains Mo Money asks, what does he look for in those that he coaches to know if they will make it in bodybuilding?
I read between lines.
Can you explain that?
I find out quite soon if someone fits my working style or has the same idea of bodybuilding. And that comes down to the question he asks, the answers he gives, how he gives the answers. So for me, as I have the gift, or I would say if I have the luck to work with the most gifted guys on the planet anyway, I'm able to search my clients not only for genetical potential, I'm able to search my guys if they fit my style. And that's something which, when I work with people, which is even more important for me.
Gotcha. Makes all the sense. And then last guy asks, obviously this differs per person. Emmer Hate Mix asks, what is your favorite training split for your athletes? If individual, best overall for us.
It's about, the first question is, do you target your muscle? And the second question is, when you target your muscle, how long does it take to recover from it? But in general, when I have an overlook, push-pull legs, so a 3 split works for nearly everyone. When it's coming to build just muscles.
Right.
When you don't have to target specific points or something like that. And even if you have to target specific point, as I said before, the ability to really hit the muscle is way more important than a training split or training frequency or something like that. Training frequency and training split gets interesting when you are really able to target every muscle perfectly. Until that's not the case, the training split is secondary because it will just shift the problem. You know, let's have an example. Your chest is shit. And your chest is shit because in every chest exercise you just target your front delts and your triceps. And you think because your chest is shit, you train the chest 2 or 3 times a week. What will happen?
You're hitting your front delts and your triceps.
And your front delts will even get more big than your chest, and the chest will stay shit. So the training split or the frequency is never the solution when the exercise execution is not on point.
Gotcha.
So that needs to come first. Otherwise, it's just not working out.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You see it on the stages of the world that when you follow an athlete, that most of the time the strengths get stronger and the weakness get worse, even if they think they can change something with a training split. That's sadly not as easy as the people want it.
But then after say that they have finally perfected hitting the muscle group.
Then you just need to find out how long does it take to recover a muscle group. And then, it might be with legs when you're really a high intensity trainer that you need 5 days. And for a chest, maybe 2 or 3 days. So then you can set the split or the training frequency of that muscle groups according to your ability to recover.
Okay, I see.
But in general, as I said before, push-pull legs is something which works out quite nice, usually.
But
with
say
2 days training and 1 day off.
Say like, for example, for like me or for Wesley, who I feel like we need to bring up our legs and, say that like your legs can recover every 2 to 3 days or something. What would you do in that case? Would you push us to hit legs every 2 to 3 days? When it comes to
Wesley, for example, that's a good example. His quads are really, really good. He's lacking hamstrings, glutes, and adductors. But that's a mobility issue. So first he must deal with the mobility issue until he can target his muscles from the origin to the full contraction point. So that's something which needs to be solved first, because if we just take a turn on the training frequency, in every compound exercise, he will have a very, very quad dominant movement because his knee flexion is the more dominant compound movement than the retroversion of his leg with the hamstring. So that this balance will always stay if we don't get rid of the mobility issue and bring that back chain up. That's nothing you can sort out with split or with the training schedule. It's based in the mobility issue, and then it's based in the way how you do the compound movement with the legs. Because if you want to stand up from the ground, you need 2 movements. The first movement is the extension of the knee, and the second part of the movement is bringing the upper leg back. You need both. When you just extend the knee, you will fall down. And when you just bring the leg back, you will fall down. And if you analyze the legs, a lot of legs at the people, and you see them squatting or leg pressing, you see that they have a dominant movement. And they need to reprogram their movement and get more into the other side, which is the weakened area. And most of the time it's the weaker area because there's a mobility issue based on it. So you need to get rid of the mobility issue. That, for example, you can go that deep without the butt wing to activate glutes and hamstring from the lowest part of the movement to get the right contraction when you stand up.
Okay, gotcha.
That's a little bit more difficult than just thinking about the training split.
Yeah,
and it's a long-term investment because you need to learn movement new, you need to get to the mobility. Sometimes injuries could be the problem, so that needs to be worked out.
Okay. Do you know if he's doing anything specific right now to address the mobility issue?
Yeah, sure. We included more mobility. His wife is a big supporter who is now overlooking his training and taking care that the intensity is right. Both of them come to me to Vienna 2 weeks long. I train with both to really get sure that he starts to progress in the right direction also in his weak body parts.
Nice. Awesome. Cool. Well, that was awesome, man. I have one last question that I ask all my guests at the end of every podcast. And if you were to leave the world tomorrow, whatever way it may be, and you had one message you could send to the entire world today, what would the message be?
Be nice to each other.
Oh, yeah. It's a good one.
Yeah. It's just too less time to not be nice, I think. Mm-hmm. Which doesn't mean don't be direct and honest, but be nice.
Yeah. I think we're all in this together. This is a really cool community, bodybuilding industry, and just everything in this sport that exists is just honestly the funnest thing on the earth. So I think little less drama in the industry. We all grow together. That'd be great. Thanks for coming on the podcast, man. That was awesome.
You're welcome. Have a nice evening.
You too, man. Everyone will really be excited about this.
Crowd.
So. Later, bro. Have a good one.